This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. Everyone's talking about GLP-1s like Ozempic, semaglutide. With Future Health, you can find out if they're right for you, too. Just go to tryfh.com, that's tryfh.com, and find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion. Results may vary. Sponsored by Future Health.
Today, we'll talk to Sam and Brian from the DCL Duo all about Disney cruising. That's coming up on this episode 450 of WDW Prep To Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep To Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips. I'm your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 450. That sounds like a big number, but wait until you hear the kind of numbers that Sam and Brian are pulling over on their podcast. I will have my chat with them in just a second. As always, a reminder to follow on social media if you aren't already. Gotten really active lately on Instagram with lots of information and reels and carousels. Just trying to put our information in a different format that is very Instagram friendly and having a lot of fun with it. Search WDW Prep School for that. If you want to be a trip report guest, you can do that by using the SpeakPipe information in the show notes of every episode. Please leave a voicemail with some brief details about your trip, and if it works out, somebody on my team will reach out and get you scheduled for your pre-trip and post-trip. We have lots of trip reports coming up, but for today we have my chat with the DCL Duo. This is a name that had been popping up in my patron Facebook group, and we have a DCL chat there, and some people had mentioned that they listened to the DCL Duo podcast. And then when I joined Blue Sky, they were there. And so we kind of connected there and were able to chat and had a lovely time. To me, they are sort of analytical about Disney Cruise in the same way that we are about Disney World. So it felt like a really fun way to look at it. I'm still newer to Disney Cruise in a way that I don't feel like I can analyze it quite in the level of detail that they can. So it was really fun to talk to them. And I'm really glad we got to spend so much time together. There is a video version up on Patreon of this main podcast, but also an after chat where we continue to talk for quite a while. So without any further ado, here is my chat with Sam and Brian. Welcome to podcast, Sam and Brian.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us, Shannon. We're so happy to be here.
I'm super honored to be here because your show has such an amazing following. We hear about you from our listeners and in our own Facebook group all the time. So really excited to be on the show.
Well, interesting, because that's where I heard about you, is in my Patreon group. We have a DCL specific chat. And I was like, wait, who are these people? I need to know more about them. So we connected on Blue Sky, and now here we are.
Yeah.
Love it.
So what's your short intro of like who you are and what you do in the Disney space?
Yeah, so the short intro is we are two practicing lawyers in the Pacific Northwest, so about as far away from the hub of Disney as you can get and the hub of Disney Cruise Line. But we fell in love with Disney Cruise Line in 2018, and in 2020, I had the idea to late 2019, had the idea to start a podcast. And then in 2020, the world shut down and we had a cruising podcast that had just spun up. And so we made the best of it. And now today we are a 500 episode strong podcast about Disney Cruise Line. We publish twice a week. And yeah, that's who we are. We focus on Disney Cruise Line. We sail other cruise lines and we cover other cruise lines in relation to Disney. That's how we sort of, if you're interested, if you've been thinking about jumping ship from Disney to Trident Royal, here's what that's like. So yeah, that's the focus of our show. And also Adventures by Disney. We love covering Adventures by Disney. So yeah, that's who we are.
And we do when Brian said a twice weekly show, one of our episodes each week is a recorded audio podcast episode. And the other episode, unless we're traveling or something that prevents us from doing a live show, is a live show on YouTube. So Monday nights we do a live show at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So catch us every Monday on YouTube.
There's a couple stats that you just mentioned that blew my mind. First of all, that's a lot of episodes in a short amount of time. I am not there, and I've had a podcast for 12 years or 11 years.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the 450s now.
Yeah, I saw I think your last episode was 448.
Yes. So in the last few years, I haven't missed a week at all. But before that, it was a little bit more spotty. And so you guys are killing it, going really fast since 2018. And then the other thing is you just started cruising in 2018 and you are Pearl with Disney.
Correct.
Yes.
Brian has 30 Disney cruises under his belt. I have 29 Disney cruises under my belt. And our 11-year-old son has 25 now cruises under his belt.
That is incredibly fast.
It
So I'll be platinum this year, and I have zero hope of ever being Pearl.
You know,
Zero.
it happens faster than you think, Shannon. So, but our first year, we started in the beginning of 2018. So January of 2018. And then I think we ended up sailing 3 times that year and like 3 or 4 times the next year. And then, of course, we sailed in January of 2020, and then the world shut down.
Mhm.
And then as soon as sailing resumed, we were on board a couple of the ships, like on their first public sailings or second, public sailings. Like we got on all of the ships within the first few months of the restart. And those are all short cruises, of course, because they couldn't sail, 7 nights or anything. They could only sail short cruises. That's actually how Brian got ahead of me, because he sailed with a friend on the Fantasy right after the restart. And Nathan and I, our son, and I couldn't go because of, school and work schedules and whatnot. But yeah, so we just kind of went like gangbusters. And,
and we discovered the achievement called back-to-back cruising too.
That's
and
true.
So
Yes,
when the Wish came
few.
out, we don't like to travel all the way from Seattle to Orlando for less than a week. We've done it several times now to do these like shorter sailings on like Royal Caribbean or Virgin or something like that. But we discovered that, look, we got to do a back-to-back if we're going to go on the Wish, because I don't want to get on the ship and then off the ship so quickly. And then down in San Diego, they were doing these like, 4-night sailings back-to-back or 4 or 5-night sailings back-to-back. And I'm up for as long as I can be on a ship. So we would book the back-to-backs. And so that really kind of accelerated our trajectory in the Castaway Club. And now we're aiming at that like plaque on Castaway Key, but that's going to take us a lot longer to get to at this point. Because
Because we're really not willing to do those 3-night sailings anymore. Well, we're still willing to do a back-to-back. So, for example, the Destiny is coming out in November, right before Thanksgiving. We're doing the maiden voyage and the second voyage, and those are each 4-night sailings. And we'll do that because we get 8 nights out of it. But I wouldn't just do that for just the 4-night sailing, right? It's like too long of a trip now for just a 4-night sailing.
I guess if it was Disney World trips, I would be Pearl.
There you go.
I've stayed in all the resorts multiple times, but it's hard to fit the cruises in when Disney World's like your primary thing.
Right.
So that's just so wild to me, because I was literally like, I'm never going to be Pearl. Never. I don't have enough years left in my life for that.
Well, that's the difference for us. I think Disney Cruise Line is the primary thing.
Right. And Disney World the side.
We go to Disney World before and after cruises occasionally. And Disneyland is actually what we consider our home park. So, we can go down there for just weekends on occasion. But yeah, the cruise is our primary mode of vacation. So then, it just sort of flip-flops. Yeah.
It totally makes sense. What inspired you to go from new Disney cruisers or new cruisers to podcast hosts? That was a fast trajectory too for you.
Yes. So that was a harebrained idea from my husband, Brian. So he actually, when we started sailing on DCL, and we got more, I would say more back into Disney more generally too, because we ended up buying into DVC in 2019. We ended up being, annual pass holders at the parks and things like that. So we got we both were Disney fans as kids, but both of us had taken sort of a hiatus from Disney for many years. And then the cruise line kind of reintroduced us into the Disney bubble, I would say. And then for anyone who knows Brian, knows that when he gets into something, he's like head first, all in, kind of obsessive crazy. Okay. So, and I love him for that, but that's who he is. And so he decided to be a guest on various other podcasts, and about somewhere cruise line, somewhere he talked about cruise line, somewhere he talked about DVC and parks and things like that, starting in probably late 2018, 2019. And so I think it was like late 2019, he came to me with this harebrained idea of starting and I say harebrained because I didn't really think it would turn into anything, if I'm being 100% honest. But he's like, I think we should start a podcast. And he brought it to me like, I think we have a unique voice. We're both in our jobs, have a ton of experience public speaking. We've both done, trial work as lawyers. And stuff like that. And so he's like, I think we have a voice that would fit in this space that's not really in this space right now. And he also sold it to me as a way for us to spend like some time together. Our son is on the autism spectrum and has ADHD and takes up a lot of our emotional energy. And at the time, that time, even more so, we were having kind of a hard time with him and with lots of things. He was since diagnosed and is doing awesome. And I'm so amazed at how far he's come. But it was sort of forced time for us to spend together to do this podcast together. And so I was like, we actually talked to we have a parent coach that we meet with who's a psychologist, and kind of talked to her about it. And she's like, I think that's a great idea. Like having something that the two of you do that's just yours, that, brings you together, that's, sharing a common interest and a passion. It is a great thing for your marriage. Parents of, this is going to sound crazy, but, the rate of divorces in America is like 50-50, right? But with parents of special needs kids, it's like 80% rate of divorce. And so finding ways to connect as a couple and having like some shared interests, I actually think is really important for maintaining a healthy relationship that is separate from your relationship as co-parents. And so that's kind of what convinced me to do it. But I'll be honest, I never thought it would last that long.
But it's only harebrained until it clicks, right?
Right. Exactly. And we joke about how our first several months of podcasts, we probably would like cringe to listen to. We don't listen to them and we probably would hate listening to them. But I think we at some point found our groove. And I think, Brian, I'll let you jump in about how the timing was kind of prophetic, if that makes sense.
Well, it turned out to be like everyone, when I tell them we started a podcast in 2020, they're like, why would you start a cruising podcast in 2020? I say, well, looking back, it seemed like a bad idea, but in actuality, we had a couple things going for us. One, we couldn't go out to eat, right? We couldn't go anywhere. And so we had all this extra time on our hands, which then gave me time to actually learn the craft and the tools and, that sort of thing, which I had no background in before we started doing this. It also enabled me to connect with other creators that I knew in the community who had time on their hands. And they were like, mentoring us through that process. And then we would reach out to people who I don't think would come on our show in normal times, early on when we were first starting, but they couldn't cruise either. And they just, I think, desperately wanted to talk to people who had a passion around it. And so, we had these authors on, these other major influencers on, these other people on that we developed relationships with that persist to this day, just because they needed an outlet. And thankfully it was an outlet for us too, because we didn't have a ton of people to talk to about this. So yeah,
I had the voice of Mickey Mouse on because I was like, when else am I going to get to talk to this guy?
Right? Yeah. I mean, amazing.
He's a little busy now. Back then, we were all looking for things to do. So I think that's a good point, because you could kind of get started before it would have taken off, because there was that revenge travel thing that happened right after, and then you were ready to go.
Well, and also a bit prophetic, because when we started, it's like, I could not do what you do, Shannon. I could not cover the parks. There's just too much happening day to day. Things change so much. And I thought, covering these 4 Disney Cruise Line ships is like, kind of fun. And I can keep track of everything on board, and then fast forward to today. And, they're going to hit 13 ships by 2032. And like, which ship has Royal Palace versus Royal Court on it? And like, what's all this new stuff they're adding? So like, I am like, it was prophetic in the sense that I think this market now is growing for Disney Cruise Line. More people are going to be cruising Disney. More people want to find information about Disney. And so we kind of got started at a time when it was a small thing, and now it's kind of getting to be a big thing, which is kind of nice. So.
I have spreadsheets to keep track of it all, because that's how I started with Disney World planning, was like, how do I analyze this to death, and charts and spreadsheets. And now I'm doing the same thing with Disney Cruise. And it's kind of bringing back some of that early joy I had with Disney World. It's like, let me learn something new and digest it in all the ways that I'm used to. So yeah, it is growing. It's still not as big as the other cruise lines, though.
No, it's not even close.
There's a creator, Matt Hochberg, who does the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line blog. And I'm like, we had him on the show one time. I meant to ask him, and I was like, I don't know how you keep it all straight. Like, I don't know how you keep up with it all. But I guess we'll find out, because we're going to have to start keeping up with it all pretty soon here too ourselves. So yeah.
Well, and to that to that end, I mean, Shannon, you have to keep in, track of all the different resorts, right? We have not ourselves stayed at most of the resorts at Walt Disney World. We've stayed at a handful of them. And we have, a couple of favorites that we love to stay at. But like, I haven't, if somebody asks me a question about like Pop Century, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I've never stayed there myself. I don't I'm not that deep into it, right? Like, but if somebody asks me a question about, where should I get my quick serve on the Treasure, I can tell them exactly where to go, right? So it's just where your expertise is.
You know what? I am going to ask you those questions.
So I love it. I love it.
Stay tuned. I want to go back before you started your podcast and you started cruising in 28. You said you had taken like a Disney hiatus, but what made you even start cruising at that point?
So I had done some cruising with my parents, and Sam had actually done some as well. So my parents really enjoyed cruising, and when I got into college, that's when they started cruising. And so I'd come home for breaks, and they'd want to go on a Caribbean cruise. They mostly sailed Celebrity at the time, and this is, we're talking 20 plus years ago. In fact, the ship that I first sailed on was just decommissioned by Celebrity. So they would cruise. I enjoyed it. But I always thought, like, man, this demographic is not, I'm like the youngest person on this ship, and this is just not going to be my scene. And so Sam and I actually took a couple cruises with my folks together. Her first introduction to cruising was a 14-night Panama Canal cruise. And her second cruise ever was a 15-night Hawaii and back from San Diego. So we did those cruises.
On Celebrity, both of them on Celebrity.
But we did those cruises, and we got off the ship, and we just thought, that's not our scene. Like they
were really nice. We had a great vacation on both of them, but like it's, we were the youngest people on the ship, and we were in our early 30s at the time. The second one.
The old people thought we were so cute when we were doing our wedding dance in the, to Frank Sinatra in the lounge or something. But so fast forward, and in 2018 rolls around, I still had in the back of my mind that I really enjoyed cruising, but I just, I really hadn't thought about going back to it. I decided for my 40th birthday that year that I really wanted to go on a cruise. And so Sam had a longtime childhood friend who at the time was working for a cruise line, not Disney. And I called him up and I said, hey, I want to go on a cruise. And what cruise line should I look at going on? And he just, without hesitation, said, oh, Disney Cruise Line. And I said, but Nathan was like really young at this point. Nathan's not coming with us, man. It's just going to be Sam and I. And he was like, yeah, okay, I don't have kids. We cruise Disney Cruise Line. And I was like, all right. So we did it. And
he came along with his husband, and another couple came along as well.
Yeah. And so we got on the ship. We walk in the atrium. They do the family announcement. They're clapping. And I was just instantly hooked. And then after that announcement, our friend took us from a top to bottom tour of the entire ship. And I was just my head was on a swivel. I was just in awe at everything. And I was like, this is not what I remember cruising to be. And so we were hooked. We booked our next cruise, I think, on board. It was exact same sailing 6 months later, and it was just the two of us. So actually our first 2 Disney cruises were just Sam and I.
Yeah, without our son.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I think you really liked, Brian, was the cleanliness of the ship. I mean, I think both of us were really in awe of how Disney, for anyone who's actually sailed Disney, they'll know this, but when you're at port, they're cleaning the outside of the ship every single day. And of course you see them cleaning the inside of the ship every single day, but none of the other ships that you might be docked to, and I'm sorry, I have to call out Carnival because that's often who you're docked next to in whatever port in the Caribbean. That ship looks like it's rusting from top to bottom, and Disney Cruise Line ships
It's only caught fire twice.
Right.
Sam. It's only caught fire twice.
And so you just see the difference in the upkeep between a Disney Cruise Line ship and the ship next to you, and you're like, wow, there's something different here.
And it was the little touches. He was pointing out the Monica blue paint on the outside of the ship and telling us a story about how that paint color came to be. And then, the whole story about Disney wanting to use Mickey yellow for the lifeboats, and just, the Coast Guard saying, no, they got to be orange. And Disney go, oh, no, they don't. And we're going to do a study to prove it to you. And then you're going to let us paint our lifeboats. I was just that kind of storytelling thought process, attention to detail. I just haven't seen that before. So I was just hooked. And we had just a fabulous sailing.
Having said that, it sounds like you fell in love with cruising because of Disney cruises, but you're branched out, right? You do other cruise lines.
We do. We definitely spend more time on Disney Cruise Line than any other cruise line, but Brian has sailed now on Royal 3 times in the last couple of years. I've sailed twice. One of those sailings was just a father-son sailing. And then we've sailed Virgin once, and we're sailing Virgin again later this year.
But I'd say it's a price. But for us, our first love is Disney Cruise Line. And if every cruise I took could be on Disney Cruise Line, I'd do it. But as often as we sail, for us, it's a pricing issue. And like Disney Cruise Line prices are really, I mean, the whole cruise industry prices are going up, but Disney's prices have always been a little higher than everybody else. And so, for an adult only sailing, if I've got a choice between, sailing in Virgin Voyages Mega Rockstar for the same price as being in a family veranda stateroom on the Disney Treasure, it's hard to, not at least try that out. I would say when we try things out, we're always comparing it to Disney Cruise Line. And anytime I get back on a Disney ship, I'm like, it's such a breath of fresh air. I'm so glad to be here. Right. So there was a point in time where people thought we were going to become like the Royal Caribbean duo or something. And I was like, it's not going to happen. It's not the same vacation. Like there's a place in the world for that vacation, but it's not the vacation I want to take every time.
My version of that would be occasionally going to Universal.
There you go. Exactly. But
I'm like, I'm not a Universal person. I just occasionally visit.
Right. And sometimes I think you do need to like branch out to see like, okay, what else is out there? Or is somebody else doing something that maybe Disney should take a note from, right? Like, and for our podcast in particular, like we don't want to be like tunnel vision, right? We want to understand like what else is the industry doing that maybe Disney should be thinking about, right? And what are the things that Disney still is really a cut above the rest for? I mean, like shows is like the perfect example, right? You go to a stage show on any other cruise line, and it's not going to compare to what you get on Disney Cruise Line. I'm a big show person, so to me, like that's a very important part of the experience.
That would explain why you like Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah, I mean, in part, it's one of many reasons, but that's a very big thing for me, and like that entertainment level being so high on Disney. I mean, I have a subscription to the Broadway at the Paramount series here in Seattle, and that I, so I go see all of the traveling national tours, and so I always want Broadway caliber. I also grew up in New York, so I always want Broadway caliber quality theater. And I'm a theater snob, I fully admit it. But yeah, I don't get that on the other cruise lines. And, Mamma Mia was decent on Royal Caribbean, but was it, I don't know, Moana on the Disney Treasure? No question, it was not.
Well, and when we sailed, I'll tell you one of the eye-opening things I can point to is we sailed Disney Cruise Line in just, regular rooms for a long time. And then we did one cruise where we upgraded to concierge and we just loved it. So we started sailing concierge all the time and the price kept going up and up. And finally I was like, well, Royal has this product. Let's just go see what that's like. And so we sailed Sky Class with Royal, and then we've sailed Mega Rockstar with Virgin. The price point is very different. And there's amenities that those two cruise lines offer in those categories of staterooms that Disney doesn't even begin to approach. And so then you look at, now I come back to Disney and I look at concierge and I go, like, I feel like they've got some work to do here. Like they should send some people over to these cruise lines and see what they've got going on at a similar or reduced price point and ask the question, is the value still there for this product that we offer or not? And so that's sort of where I feel comfortable saying, criticizing the cruise line a bit, right? Or pointing out opportunities where I'm like, I've tried this other thing and you guys are killing it on shows, but in this area, I think you got some work to do. And so I really hope you'll take a look at that. And, not that they listen to us, but, they'll take a look at that.
We yell out into the ether. That's what we do.
Yeah. If they Google it, maybe it'll come up.
Maybe,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe. But most of our sailings nowadays on Disney Cruise Line are not in concierge. There was a period of time where we were sailing quite a bit in concierge. And then, like Brian said, the price point just got too rich for our blood. And so we've kind of pivoted back to regular sailing because I think personally, we understand why somebody would want to sail concierge, and we are sailing actually concierge for our Alaska sailing. But we think for generally speaking, I'm not sure that the value is totally there, particularly when you see what other cruise lines are doing in their version of concierge.
That is good to know. I do want to dive into some Disney Cruise Line questions. Let's start with, do you have a favorite itinerary?
Ooh, yes, probably regularly, right? I mean, regularly, if we could pick an itinerary, like that would be our like go-to, it's the 7-night Eastern Caribbean itinerary.
Yeah, vastly prefer the Eastern ports to the Western, and so love that itinerary. I'd say that's our go-to itinerary. My favorite itinerary that we've done has been Norway.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, I think that was just a gorgeous. I hear it's very similar to Alaska, although Alaska's more like animal focused and Norway's more scenery focused. But those ports were amazing and small and intimate, and the shore excursions were just amazing, and the sailing in and out of the fjords, like that was my favorite probably itinerary that we've done.
But we do tell people that if they're looking for like a Christmas present to get me, like I'm a size 11 night Southern Caribbean.
Yes. I had to go and remind myself what the Eastern Caribbean itinerary is. Tell me if this is what you had.
St. Thomas,
Castaway,
Tortola,
Key,
and Castaway. Yeah.
Castaway. Okay. Port Canal, San Juan.
So San Juan is in the alternate. So there are kind of two alternate Eastern Caribbean itineraries, but the typical one is St. Thomas, Tortola, and Castaway. Then there's another one that is often that might include San Juan or St. Martin and Castaway.
Okay,
so
right.
there's kind of two, but the one that I tend to think of as the primary is St. Thomas, Tortola, Castaway. But both are great.
It looks like the port of departure matters there because that can determine exactly where the ship goes. Fort Lauderdale versus Canaveral kind of thing.
Yeah, over the holidays they did so the Treasure Maiden voyage was the typical St. Thomas, Tortola, Castaway, and then we got off the ship, got back on the Fantasy and did a 7-night Eastern, and that cruise out of Port Canaveral did do the San Juan, St. Martin. So they can do it through both ports, but I think you're right. Right now they kind of segregate those two. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite Disney ship, or does it depend on the trip?
Kind of depends on the trip. I think we love we really like the Wish, although now she's fallen to the bottom of the stack, to be perfectly honest. The Treasure is now kind of our favorite ship to travel on as a family because our son loves the spaces on the Treasure and we just really enjoy it.
Well, and the Treasure, of course, the newest ship has like all of the new stuff on it, the best stage shows, fantastic, new dining options, and they have amazing new entertainment on the Treasure. But yeah, I think Brian's right. Like for both of us, I'd say like Treasure is probably number one, but the Wonder has like this, I don't know, we love the Wonder and we love the Fantasy also. It's really hard to choose. There's something really special and warm about the Wonder, and we like a small ship. It's really nice. And I don't know, Brian loves Tiana's, right? I mean, I feel like that's kind of just having that like French Quarter stuff is really
there's something special about the atmosphere on the Wonder and the crew for us, and the concierge offering on the Wonder was kind of one of our favorites. So yeah, if it's just the two of us sailing, I would easily go on the Wonder. Yeah.
I think the Wonder might be my favorite as well. And I just feel like it's easy to get to know the space because it's so small. I don't have to look for directions anymore because I've just been on it so many times. I don't dislike the Wish Treasure class, which seems like a hot take. People don't seem to often like that layout. Do you have any thoughts on that criticism?
I think it's flipped a little bit. Like when the Wish came out, no question, like everybody was hating on it, right? Because the Disney people want all the new things, but only if it's exactly the same as the old things, right? And so it doesn't make any sense, but that's just how Disney fans are. But yeah, so I think there was a lot of hate initially, but I really think that people who sailed on the Wish, I don't know, a year after she maidens, like have sort of come around on her because she's such a beautiful ship and such a beautiful class of ship. And I think with the Treasure, especially Parks fans are just being blown away by the Treasure. So I think I think those criticisms have died down a little bit.
Well, I think if I had to put it in perspective, I think here's what happened. I think the Wish is different. And to Sam's point, people aren't always like big on change. And so that's part of it. The other part of it is the Wish was being built during the pandemic. And to be perfectly honest, now that you compare the Wish to the Treasure, it is a stark contrast. You can tell that the Wish was heavily value engineered. And so, the Treasure, when you step on, is everything the Wish could have been. And you can tell they almost spared no expense, it seems like, on that ship. The comparison between Haunted Mansion Parlor and the Hyperspace Lounge is night and day. And I have a feeling that's everything to do with how much money they could put in to one space over the other, right? And so the Wish also wasn't delivered fully ready and on time. The Treasure was delivered fully ready, fully operational, and on time. Like that maiden voyage was one of the comparison to the Wish was so smooth. We actually have a friend who works at the company who was on board at the time. And I think part of what they were trying to do is augment the guest services staff. Because on the Wish, guest services was overwhelmed. For days, it was overwhelmed. On the Treasure, like we ran into him as he was getting off. He's like, well, we're all going home. Like, they just don't seem to need us. And I looked at it, like, guest services was like practically empty or with a small line. And they were, doing all the right things to like pull people out of line who had really basic questions that didn't need to talk. And so like the whole experience was just like super well run. There were some kinks here and there, which is to be expected on a first voyage. But I think that combination of it wasn't as value engineered, the money was put into it, the operations were there, the ship was ready. I think if that had been the Wish, we might have had a different story about how people felt about this class of ship.
I've been on the Wish and I'm booked on the Treasure this year, so you guys are getting me excited.
Oh, it's so good. You're
Because
gonna love it.
I like the Wish a lot. I think there's pros and cons to every ship, but if I like the Wish, I'm excited to see the Treasure in person.
You're going to love it, especially as a parks person. Like, it is literally a parks fan's like dream ship. Really. It really is.
Well, and we've said on the show, one of the biggest things that Treasure has going for it is its sailing 7-night itineraries, which I think the Wish had struggled, I think, because people couldn't do the things they wanted to do because everything was oversubscribed, which it's going to be on like a 3 and 4 night. On a 7-night sailing, we got into Haunted Mansion multiple times with choice seating and like all this sort of, like, it is so, and the added entertainment on board, this whole sage and coriander persona that they've introduced in the entertainment there. It is just like, I will sail the Treasure any day above all the other ships if offered. Like, it is such a good ship. So, yeah.
It was a big stark contrast to like the Magic and Wonder, where I was used to being on a small ship for 5 to 7 nights to being on the Wish for just a few nights. I'm like, there is no time.
Yeah.
Totally. It's not a relaxing vacation when you're on the Wish. If you're on a 7-night Disney cruise, you can have a combination of running around and doing things and relax. You can't do that on a 3-4 night sailing on the Wish.
I also understand what they're trying to do to hook, Disney World people into cruising and a 3 or 4 night is easier than a 7.
Yeah.
So that is not me or you anymore. We are going to commit to a longer itinerary. But if you're just dipping your toe in it, I can see how that would be appealing. Have you stayed in all of the different kind of staterooms?
We have not. We have seen most of the different categories, like gotten a chance to look into rooms that are in most of the different categories. But we are not inside cabin people. I'll be totally transparent. But we have stayed in ocean views. We have stayed in verandas. We have stayed in concierge, which are verandas or 1-bedrooms. So we've stayed in a variety of rooms, but not inside staterooms. And we don't like lower decks. We like to be higher up on the ship.
And we've been in the Tower Suite on the Wish, and we've been in the Roy Suite on one of the ships. So
on the one,
Yeah, and we
not
did sail
stayed,
on the,
to be clear, not stayed there, but
and we did sail in one of the forward-facing staterooms on the concierge staterooms on the Wish, which was one of the nicest rooms we've seen. So have not stayed in them all, but have stayed in a lot of them. So
yeah, and I got a chance actually to tour on the Treasure. I went on one of the preview cruises. I got a chance to tour actually quite a few of the different types of staterooms, particularly the concierge staterooms were open for tour. They had a lot of different categories open for tours. And so I was able to see a lot of those options as well.
And what do you normally book for your own trips?
It depends. When we're sailing the Caribbean, we're from Seattle, and so we'll melt in the heat. So we usually don't actually book a veranda stateroom when it's exceptionally hot in the Caribbean. We book one of the forward ocean view staterooms on like deck 9 that has like a big porthole in it. We really like that stateroom. If it is, like a Norway cruise or a colder weather cruise, like we actually will book a room that has kind of a veranda, because then we can be out there and enjoying, the scenery and that sort of thing. On Norway, it was fantastic to have that veranda access. But I'd say most often from a regular stateroom standpoint, we're booking an ocean view, like a forward large porthole ocean view room. We prefer to stay higher up in the stack of decks. And I like to stay forward because you get access to a lot of the adult spaces very quickly, and the pool deck and all of that sort of stuff. When we have sailed concierge, our favorite room is the 1-bedrooms on board the ship, because they give enough space for us and our son. And so yeah, that's our favorite stateroom category in concierge. Yeah.
I'm assuming that you booked a veranda for your upcoming Alaskan cruise.
We have booked a little bit bigger than a veranda.
So We had this like harebrained idea when we originally booked Alaska, which was like back like right before the pandemic. I think we booked an Alaska cruise, and we booked the Roy Disney Suite because we had a really cool, got some kind of deal on it. It was like not that crazy expensive when we booked it. And then we had to kick it out and kick it out and kick it out. We ultimately like rebooked it. But we were on a cruise a couple years ago where we had a kind of an issue with our stateroom, and they ended up giving us a 15% future cruise credit. And so when it came time to book Alaska, we're like,
and
well,
we were
will
staying
be applying.
concierge. We were staying, so we were allowed to use it on a concierge stateroom.
Yeah, so we applied it to the Roy Disney Suite on the Disney Wonder for Alaska this season. Yeah.
And we're taking my mom with us. So it's going to be Brian, myself, my mom, and our son Nathan.
Yeah.
You'll have room.
We'll have plenty of room.
That's going to be amazing. That's maybe one of my favorite trips I've ever taken in my life is a Disney Alaskan cruise. And you guys are doing it in a really grand way. So that's really cool.
We're excited.
Attention sports enthusiasts, keep the adrenaline pumping and elevate your game day with Chumba Casino. It's completely free to play. No purchase necessary. Whether you're cheering from the stands, on the move, or relaxing at home, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of social casino directly to your fingertips. Experience the ultimate social casino adventure with reels of casino-style games, offering hundreds of exciting options to choose from and fresh new releases every week. There's always something new and thrilling to explore. From action-packed social slots and classic blackjack to engaging bingo and solitaire, the fun never stops. Plus, enjoy generous daily login bonuses and a fantastic free welcome bonus to kickstart your social gaming journey. Dive into the excitement. Discover a world where you can play for your chance to redeem some serious prizes and have a blast along the way. Don't miss out. What are you waiting for? Join now and immerse yourself in nonstop fun and adventure with Chumba Casino. Get in on the action today at ChumbaCasino.com and make every day a Chumba day. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ TNC supply.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. Everyone's talking about GLP-1s like Ozempic, semaglutide. With Future Health, you can find out if they're right for you, too. Just go to tryfh.com, that's tryfh.com, and find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion. Results may vary. Sponsored by Future Health.
Dreaming of hydrated skin amidst these dry winter months? Dime offers clean, master esthetician crafted skincare products that deeply nourish, protect, and hydrate. Their formulas, made with clean ingredients, lock in moisture for skin that stays soft, smooth, and radiant all season long. Hydration starts with Dime's best-selling hyaluronic acid serum, delivering deep moisture where your skin craves it most. This lightweight, fast-absorbing serum helps quench dryness, plump skin, and boost elasticity from the inside out. Once your skin is prepped with the serum, seal in all that hydration with their Dewy Day Cream, a rich, luxurious moisturizer designed to provide all-day softness and lasting glow. Together, this powerful duo keeps your skin smooth, supple, and luminous, even in the harshest weather. Shop the duo now at dimebeautyco.com. That's dimebeautyco.com. And get the hydrated skin of your dreams.
Do you have a favorite onboard activity that you always make time for?
I would say for me, it's the shows. Like I have to go to see the shows. I have a strong preference for the shows that are an already existing story as opposed to a more sort of variety type show where Disney has created a story and put a bunch of different musical scenes together. So I'm not huge on that version, although I love Seize the Adventure on the Wish and Treasure. But yeah, for me, it's always the shows. I'm going to guess for Brian, it's the rainforest room or just sitting on the pool deck. He's more of a relax. I'm a person who is running around from activity to activity. And he's one of the people who's like sitting and relaxing, which is one of the reasons why cruising is such a great vacation for us because we can both do the things.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like when Sam and I were vacationing pre kind of Disney cruising, we would go to these places and Sam would want like activity. And I'm like, I go on vacation to slow down. So like, I don't mind going to see a thing, but like I want one thing a day. And the rest of the time, I just kind of want to like maybe experience the atmosphere of the place. You know, if we're going to London, like sit in the pub, you know, or just wander around the streets and see what's going on. And so cruising really provided, like I am most often found on the pool deck between the hours of 8 and 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So that's my favorite activity is really just finding a relaxing spot and letting life slow down, read a book, listen to a podcast, do a puzzle or something like that. Specific activity, though, for me is if we're on a Wish class ship, there is nothing better than a smoked old fashioned from Hook's Barbary. So I love to go down there in the evening before dinner and get one of those. That's one of my favorite things to do. So yeah.
Love that. Do you have a favorite splurge that you like to do on Disney cruises?
I would say for me, it's probably a massage, right? Like I love a hot stone massage, and I don't ever go get massages at home. But whenever I'm on a Disney cruise, I'm always booking at least one massage. And occasionally we've booked like the couples massage in the villa where you get like, you know, some time where you get like a foot scrub and then you get to sit in the hot tub and then they do your massage, or, you know, the order of things differs depending upon which ship you're on. But I think that's a nice little splurge.
Yeah, for me, it would probably be very specifically Remy dinner on the Fantasy and the Dream. We had just a fabulous dinner there on our first cruise. And every time we go, we just have a fabulous meal, and it's just relaxing, and it's that slow pace that I enjoy. So I think that's probably one. The other splurge, frankly, that we've started doing are, because we've been on so many of the sailings and done so many of the shore excursions and beach trips and things like that, that we look for like a unique shore excursion here and there. So like in Norway, we splurged for the helicopter over a glacier. On a recent cruise, we did a private non-Disney excursion to Jost Van Dyke with a group of folks, and just had a fabulous day. And I know for Alaska, we're going to be booking like all the crazy dog sledding.
It's going to be ridiculous. We know
Yeah.
that the excursions are going to cost as much as the cruise. Yeah.
They did, in fact. I can attest. But what sticks with you, though,
Yeah.
is those incredible whale watching adventures. Like, you're not going to be able to do it anywhere else. So
Yeah.
you might as well. Sam, you've talked a lot about being a fan of the stage shows. Do you have a favorite stage show?
Yes, it is A Tale of Moana. I mean, it is just the new Moana show on the Treasure is fantastic. Prior to that coming out, I would have said Beauty and the Beast, which is now, of course, also on the Treasure, but it was on the Dream first. It's still on the Dream as well. That show has won awards for its staging, for its use of technology. It's just a really fantastic show. But I have to give honorable mentions to Tangled and Frozen. And I'm not a big Frozen person, so like giving an honorable mention to Frozen is like a big deal for me. But the way it's staged and the use of puppetry, I think Disney does a really great job in pretty much all of their shows using puppetry. And I just think the way they do it in Frozen, and I won't spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but there's several different uses of puppetry in Frozen, and it's so darn good. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite show, Brian?
Well, so Sam makes fun of me all the time. There was a moment in time where I really liked the Golden Mickeys, and it was more because of the moment in time, because it was like right when, so Chapek was still the CEO, and that they had Bob Iger recorded on the screen, and then he came back, and I was like, they don't even have to re-record this bit anymore. It's like he's back. And so I really just kind of enjoyed it because I just thought it was kind of fun and kitschy and, you know, kind of old school Disney Cruise Line. So yeah, that was my favorite for a long time.
But Brian skips most of the shows. He really does.
I like being in a bar with our because of the podcast. Now we're on these ships with, it's no longer, it's like, even if it's just the two of us sailing, suddenly there's like people who know us on board or know of us.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, let's just go get a drink and sit down and chat Disney Cruise Line. What do I care? And so I really kind of enjoy those kind of moments of, I'm an introvert. People don't usually, I'm a real introvert. And so the one-on-one thing is easier for me than the one-to-many kind of thing. And so just, you know, having those moments of slowing down and getting to know somebody are like really nice. So, yeah.
And if you can't tell, I'm the extrovert in the relationship.
You don't say. I like the pre-dinner pub dinner show Back to the Pub. Just trying to hit all the different things. I like when Disney creates shows that are unique but reference their other, you know, IP or whatever. So I really like Disney Dreams. I think it's a sweet show that brings in a few different storylines, and it's its own unique thing. So I don't like to miss that one. So that's a good one. Do you have a favorite rotational dining restaurant?
For me, it's Tiana's. I really love Tiana's. I really feel like they push the envelope a bit with the food there in ways that they hadn't before. And so that is my hands down favorite. Coco's a close second for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, as much as I love both of the ones that Brian mentioned, I still love Animator's Palette. I think there's just something like so classically Disney about Animator's Palette, especially on the classic ships. Although You don't always get animation magic. You only get animation magic if you're doing a 7-night sailing on the Magic or the Wonder. But I don't know. I just love the atmosphere, and I love the theming. And I'll be honest, that's like one of my favorite menus is the night one rotational menu in Animator's Palette. So I love the pork chop and the pasta bolognese, and yeah, it's great.
That's also mine, but I do find it frustrating that the experience varies. Depending on the night, depending on the cruise, depending on the length.
And the ship, but exactly. It is a different experience from the Magic class to the Dream class, and it is a different experience depending upon the length of sailing and whether you got, obviously you only get Crush on Dream and Fantasy, and you only get Animation Magic on certain sailings, and so but still that's I would say my favorite restaurant.
It is pretty classic. It definitely gives you those Disney magic vibes. I know we use the word magic.
Yeah,
much,
the feels, the nostalgia. It's kind of like why I think Brian likes Golden Mickeys. I think it's like that Disney nostalgia feeling that those of us who are Disney fans get, right?
On Embarkation Day, where do you head for lunch?
This might seem controversial.
It's not controversial. We used to go to Cabanas because that was what we were sort of trained to do. And then we discovered the sit-down lunch. And so now we almost always go to sit-down lunch. We love, it's like Embarkation Day. Again, it's sort of, let's slow down. Let's have lunch. It's not like the rooms are ready, like we have no place we need to be. And so we sit and we have lunch usually. I think the last cruise is though saying we headed right for the pool deck and just grabbed like quick serve.
We did one of them. Well, so it's on the Wish class, because you have such good pool deck food, like that's a draw. But on all of the other ships, I think sit down lunch is the way to go. I mean, the empanada appetizer is fantastic. Brian always gets the muffaletta sandwich. I always get a Caesar salad. And then I always get the Oreo cheesecake. I have to talk about the Oreo cheesecake. It's only on Embarkation Day lunch. They have a version of it in Cabanas, or Marceline Market, but it's not the same. And so the one that's in the sit-down restaurants is like the Oreo cheesecake. I'm a cheesecake fan. I'm an Oreo fan. You put them together and it's like the perfect baby. It's just amazing.
I too went to Cabanas, many times, but when it's available, which on the Magic and Wonder it is, Daisy Delights, which is right outside Cabanas.
Yes. Super
it has the soups and the sandwiches, and no one's there usually.
Yeah.
And to me, it's much better food without the crowds. So, and then if people want to eat in a Cabanas, I'll just go join them because it's right next door.
Yeah, that's a great location. Yeah,
I have never
on the Wish
done this
class.
sit-down.
Oh yeah, you'll have to try the sit down. But on the Wish class, I feel like Donald's Cantina and the Mickey Smokestack Barbecue are two also great options, right? Like they're like a cut above the other pool deck food. Like they're not just your burgers and hot dogs and pizza. Like they're so good.
If people are considering their first Disney cruise, do you have some tips for them?
So many. I think I think some of the big tips we were actually just writing some of this up for another project that we're starting, but I was thinking through, like, if someone came to me for a first time cruise and they wanted to pick the cruise for them, like, how would you think about it? And I really think for me, it boils down to 3 questions, like, what's your budget? When can you sail and for how long? And then what are your expectations out of the vacation? So, a lot of people come to us and I want to take my first Disney cruise. What should I do? And it's like, well, how much do you want to spend? When can you go? And what are you looking for, right? So, if your budget is, not unlimited, which for most of us it's not, then, you got to start thinking about, do I want to sail in like the prime seasons when school's out and all of that sort of stuff? Or do I want to like find maybe a shoulder season sailing? We did that for Alaska, actually. We're on the second to last sailing. It works well for us because our son's still not back in school. His school starts really late here in the Pacific Northwest. So we get to take advantage of a reduced price Alaska sailing at the end of the season. So, that budget question, like that can also drive whether you're doing 3 and 4 night or 7 night or whatever it is. The when can you sail? Like if you're constrained to school times, then that's just what you got to do. And then, expectations, I think, is the biggest one for me. Like if you're looking for a warm weather vacation, then I would say don't make your first Disney cruise to Alaska. If you hate sailing in the Caribbean and going to beaches, then, there's lots of other destinations for Disney Cruise Line that don't involve beaches, right? So it's sort of, also thinking through like, do you want a lot of time on the ship? Well, I wouldn't make your first cruise a Europe cruise then, because you're gonna be off the ship a lot doing excursions and things, right? So yeah, that's my tip for people, is really understand how much you want to spend, when you can go, and what you want out of the vacation before you head to the booking site. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I do think there's like one tip we like to give people about like if they're worried about seasickness, right? So, obviously like come prepared with whatever seasickness meds that, have or can get if you can get the patch, like if you can get, the prescription patch that your doctor can prescribe you. That's a great option. But of course, you try it out ahead of time to make sure you don't have any bad side effects, right? But we also tell people like, hey, if you're worried about seasickness because you're somebody who gets motion sick, then maybe a shorter sailing is the right sailing for you to start on, right? And even though we always prefer a longer sailing, that's not the right recommendation for every person. But honestly, we also tell people that why not use a travel agent? Like we're not travel agents. There is an agency that sponsors our show, but like we tell people like find an expert, not just any travel agent, but a travel agent who books Disney cruises and who knows their stuff, and they can help guide you through the process because it doesn't cost you anything, to use a travel agent as opposed to booking it yourself. And so, a good travel agent is worth their weight in gold. A bad travel agent is not a good thing. But, so there are ways, there are people who can guide you. There are lots of resources online, of course, listening to our show and hearing stories of what people liked about certain destinations and itineraries, I think is helpful. I also think that looking at like, what is your family structure? Like, are you sailing with little kids? Are you sailing with big kids? Are you sailing with teenagers? Are you sailing multi-generational? I do think and we've done actually a show on which ship to choose, right? Like there are different ships that cater better towards certain families, as like younger kids is a great example. Like all the ships have a great nursery, but like if you've got kind of kids in that 3 to 10-year-old range, I think the Wish class is really the kids club is like unparalleled, right? So that's a great ship to be on. But if you're sailing with grandparents, or people with mobility challenges, you might want to be on one of the classic ships. Those are a little bit better for accessibility, and they're great even if you have little kids also in the mix, right? So like those are some of the questions and kind of conversations that we have with people when they're asking for that recommendation. So the recommendation might be different depending upon if you're just a couple or you are a family with teenagers or a family sailing with little ones and grandparents.
Yeah, I would underscore Sam's point about the travel agency because I saw someone comment the other day, somebody was saying, well, I use a travel agent because I don't have to sit on hold. And somebody was like, well, I almost never have to sit on hold. And I just do things through the way. And I thought the most salient point they made, I think Sam's right, the upfront piece is really helpful. If you're trying to decide things, and they know what they're doing, then they're going to help you guide through that process. But I'll tell you where it really matters is when things go wrong. Like maybe you don't have to sit on hold for 2 hours up front as a part of your cruise. But let me tell you, if something goes wrong on your cruise, you're going to want somebody to deal with Disney for you who understands Disney, who understands the right questions to ask, the people to talk to, those sorts of things. And also because in that moment, you're probably going to be focused on like, I don't know, packing your bags and like dealing with your airline, not like dealing with Disney Cruise Line. So.
But also if something goes wrong when you're on the ship, you often don't have access to call. Yeah. But if you can message a travel agent, they can call.
100%.
So I may have had that happen on my last cruise, which was the group, and it was booked through the travel agency that I'm partnered with, and they handled it. We didn't have phone access to do that, but I could get on Wi-Fi and text. So that was really nice. Yeah. You've talked about splurging on excursions sometimes. Do you choose to book through Disney or outside of Disney?
We have up until recently booked almost everything through Disney. And I think part of that was the concern about, missing the ship, right? If something goes wrong on the excursion and it's a Disney excursion, you're going to get back on the ship. We did one excursion not through Disney one time in Mexico. And I think we were like, oh my God, we're going to miss the ship. We're going to miss the ship. And we didn't. It was all fine. More recently, we've gotten more comfortable with, looking at it going, it's like a $15 taxi ride to Megan's Bay Beach and, some fees to get in as opposed to like the $89 excursion that Disney might offer, right? And so might we just want to grab a taxi over there and then we can stay as long as we want and head back? So we tell people, you got to do what you're comfortable with, right? And there is a certain safety that comes from booking your excursions through Disney. That said, there's also a world of tour providers out there who rely on getting people to and from places and making sure they don't miss their cruise ships, right? So if they're a reputable tour provider who's been doing this for a long time, they know if someone misses the ship and that gets written up on Yelp, then, people aren't going to book with them, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so we do say there's a world of tours out there that Disney's not offering, a world of experiences that you can have that Disney's excursions may not cover. And so if you're looking for something unique and different, just take a look at what's out there, read the fine print, know what you're getting yourself into. We always recommend having travel insurance. We carry an annual travel insurance policy ourselves to help us if something goes wrong, but also recognize that it's not like, I think there's this picture of, Disney is this gold-plated tour provider and they're good, but half the time you can book the same tour with the same provider. And we've heard from people who've booked it direct and they're on the little ship or whatever it is with the people with the stickers on from Disney Cruise Line. They're all getting back at the same time, right? So don't think it's this world of fly by night versus Disney Cruise Line. Read the reviews, know what you're getting into, but there are plenty of really excellent tour providers out there. The other thing that we tell people is sometimes Disney puts age restrictions on shore excursions that the tour providers themselves don't enforce. And so if you're really wanting to take your kid on an excursion and they can do it, if you book directly through the provider, a lot of times they'll let you book something that Disney may not when it comes to those age restrictions. So
I understand the price can vary as well, and the date that you can book it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if you're a first-time Disney cruiser, you're
right. Right. Sometimes everything's booked up, right? So if you're a first-time cruiser or even a silver cruiser, you go on when your booking window opens and everything looks like it's sold out because it is sold out through Disney's spaces. But if you go and find the same tour provider elsewhere, which you have to do a little bit of sleuthing to sometimes figure out, but if you can often find the same tour provider still has spaces outside of Disney and you're getting the same tour for less money and you're able to book it. So it's definitely an option. It's just a matter of, as Brian said, read the fine print. Also, I would always tell people check, does the tour operator give you a guarantee that they will get you back to the ship? Because that's an important one, because Disney's excursions all include that guarantee. Now, of course, if the ship has to leave without you, they will pay for you to reunite with the ship if you're on a Disney excursion. You want a tour provider who makes that same guarantee.
Yes, that is a great point. So that's one way to save money on excursions, which we know that saving money on a Disney cruise is not the easiest thing in the world. Do you have any tips for saving money?
There's a couple. So we always tell people, once you book the cruise, you actually don't have to spend really another dime. If you prepay your tips, please don't zero out your gratuities as a way to save money on a Disney cruise. Please don't do that. But if you prepay your tips and and they're included in your fare, once you step foot on board, you really don't have to pay money again. So recognize that it's a choice to do some of these things, and probably you're going to want to make some decisions and balance some things out, but you don't have to spend another dime. I think a couple ways to save money on the cruise, so a couple categories here. On the spa, don't pre-book your spa appointments. If you really want a massage, wait until you get on board because they always offer deals and always on port days. So if there's a port you're visiting that you don't plan to get off in, I'm telling you, head to the spa, book your spa appointment on a port day. It's discounted. There's going to be practically every time available you want to be at because everyone else is getting off the ship. So that's one way to save some money. Disney doesn't do drink packages like some of the other cruise lines, but they do offer discounted packages for different things around kind of alcoholic beverages and water. And so they frequently will have up on the pool deck this, deal where you buy the Disney Cruise Line branded bag with ice and you get, whatever it is, 8 bottles of water for the price of 6. And then you can get it refilled, over and over again. That's certainly something to look into. You can also, people don't know, bring water on board. You just can't bring it in your checked bags. You have to, carry it on. So we did have some success early on in cruising. We could just throw one of the luggage tags on the thing of the pallet of water, and they would send it on the ship. And they kind of cracked down on that a bit.
Yeah.
So,
but you don't need to bring bottled water. Bring a bottle because the water on the ship is filtered and it's actually really good water. So there's no need to do bottled water.
The other thing I'll say is if you do want to have an adult beverage, there's a couple things you can do. One is you are allowed to bring up to 2 bottles of wine per adult in the stateroom at each port, or a 6-pack of beer per adult per port. And so what that means is when you get on in Port Canaveral, you can have, call it 4 bottles of wine, 2 6-packs of beer, some combination thereof per adult. And the next port stop you get off at, if you are running low or you want to restock, you can buy some in the port and bring it on the ship. The exception is you cannot bring hard alcohol on the ship. People often ask us about bringing seltzer on board, and it's varying enforcement at the terminal on that. So just buyer beware there, but you can do that. And then you're just paying whatever the retail price is and bringing it on. you're supposed to drink it in your stateroom. P.S. No one's really monitoring where that beer came from or where that glass of wine came from. So pour it in your wine glass and take it with you to dinner. No one cares, right? That's that. The other thing you can do is Disney does offer wine packages on Embarkation Day, and they frankly offer them all throughout the cruise, but it makes the most sense to buy on the first day, where you pay a set price for a certain category of wine, and then you get basically a bottle of wine for like 3 nights, 5 nights, 7 nights, whatever it is, whatever you buy. And if you don't drink the whole bottle, you can take it with you out of the dining room and drink the rest of it on board. You can have them hold it for the next night. If you want to, make a bottle last 2 nights, you can do that. So there's that option. They do offer a beer mug, and they also do like seltzer and beer in the same kind of carry bag that they do the water. So there's discounts on that. The beer mug, you basically pay for the mug, and then you get a 20-ounce beer for the price of a 16-ounce. So that's another way to save money. If you want to be at a bar and get a glass of wine, you can save some money by asking what's in the bin. And so the bin is just open bottles of wine that they have that they couldn't fully serve, and they serve those at a discounted price. So like all of that's little ways to kind of, save some money on board. In the merchandise category, I'd say, everyone wants to buy some Disney Cruise Line merch. If you've got the Disney Visa, the DVC, whatever it is, you do get discounts on onboard merchandise. So make sure you're getting those. That should be hard loaded and hard coded into your Key of the World card or your Magic Band. But if it's not, make sure to ask, because you do get those discounts on board. I don't know, Sam, am I missing any? Oh, popcorn.
You're missing popcorn. So if you bring your own popcorn bucket from the parks, you can usually, and I say usually because once in a while you'll get a bartender who will say, no, it needs to be a popcorn bucket that was bought on board. But typically speaking, if you bring your popcorn bucket on board, you can pay for refills. I think they cost about $2.50, right? So they'll refill as you see my popcorn buckets next to me if you're watching on the Patreon channel. You bring your popcorn bucket and you get a $2.50 refill instead of buying popcorn for whatever it costs, $15, $18. I can't remember what it is at this point. So there's those, there's little things there. But I'd say that as far as booking, if you can sail in a non-preferred time of year in the off season, right? So if you can sail when school's in session, that's typically going to be cheaper than sailing spring break, Christmas, Thanksgiving, summertime, those kinds of things. The other tip is book early. I know that with other cruise lines, people go in like sort of last minute cruises. That's not really a thing on Disney Cruise Line. There have been some exceptions. Typically, those are travel agent rates or cast member rates or military discounts, things like that. But if you don't fall into one of those categories, then your best bet is usually booking your cruise as soon as the itineraries are available to book, because usually the prices go up for Disney Cruise Line, whereas on some other cruise lines that might be the opposite. So Disney is one of those where if you plan in advance, you'll probably do better on the price.
Well, GTY rooms too. If you're looking at sailing and GTY is available, you can save a little bit of money there. GTY guarantee restricted rooms tend to be even a little bit better savings, although then you've got all kinds of restrictions around the room, so you just have to watch out for that. I'd say 2 other quick tips I'd have is if you need sunscreen and stuff and you're like flying in and you can't carry it, try to find a way to get to a local drugstore or something for that stuff. Do not buy it on board the ship. It's going to be insanely expensive. And then the other thing to look at is your transportation to and from the port. So a lot of people will book the Disney Cruise Line transportation because it's easy and it's there. But you should really stop and do some math, because the per person price on the Disney Cruise Line transportation can get pretty steep. Once you're at a family of 3, and it's definitely when you're a family of 4 or 5, suddenly private transfers become more affordable. And they also mean you can leave on your own time. You can set those times of arrival, departure. There's lots of great companies that do that, but just do the math and do the multiplication of this much per person and how much is that translated into when I want to just book a private car there and back. So,
there's one more tip I just thought of with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. If you have a princess or prince who wants to have a makeover, or a pirate who wants to have a makeover, bring the costume with you. You can pay for the makeover without paying for the costume, because the costume is one of the most expensive items on board.
That's true in the parks as well. So don't buy Disney's costumes. They cost a ton. So all really good tips. Thanks for sharing. You guys covered the gamut of options there.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. Everyone's talking about GLP-1s like Ozempic, semaglutide. With Future Health, you can find out if they're right for you, too. Just go to tryfh.com, that's tryfh.com, and find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion. Results may vary. Sponsored by Future Health.
Dreaming of hydrated skin amidst these dry winter months? Dime offers clean, master esthetician crafted skincare products that deeply nourish, protect, and hydrate. Their formulas, made with clean ingredients, lock in moisture for skin that stays soft, smooth, and radiant all season long. Hydration starts with Dime's best-selling hyaluronic acid serum, delivering deep moisture where your skin craves it most. This lightweight, fast-absorbing serum helps quench dryness, plump skin, and boost elasticity from the inside out. Once your skin is prepped with the serum, seal in all that hydration with their Dewy Day Cream, a rich, luxurious moisturizer designed to provide all-day softness and lasting glow. Together, this powerful duo keeps your skin smooth, supple, and luminous, even in the harshest weather. Shop the duo now at dimebeautyco.com. That's dimebeautyco.com. And get the hydrated skin of your dreams.
Transform your space instantly with new original art you love. At Saatchi Art, discover thousands of curated, one-of-a-kind paintings, sculptures, and photography for your home from today's top emerging artists around the world. Whether you're filling a blank space on your walls or starting an art collection, find the perfect piece for your specific style and budget at Saatchi Art. Plus, their 14-day satisfaction guarantee means you can buy with confidence. Visit SaatchiArt.com today and get 10% off your first work of original art with code IHEART. That's 10% off at SaatchiArt.com. That's SaatchiArt.com.
Before you wrap up, I would like to go through a quick list of like this or that rapid fire.
Love it.
Let's start with main dining or late dining.
Oh,
Late dining.
Easy. Late dining.
We're late dining people. Yeah.
Especially because we're
I'm
coming
main
West
dining.
Coast. Oh, really? Well, it's in part because we're coming from the West Coast, and if we're going to the East Coast, it just feels like it's 2:30 in the afternoon. We just can't eat that early.
I had late dining, and I mean, I've had late dining a couple times, but I can never get the flow figured out for myself because I like dinner and a show and then out to the adults only sections.
Yeah.
And so when it's reversed, I just get kind of confused and miss the shows.
I get it.
I like the extra low capacity pool time in the evenings in the Caribbean. So when everyone's off getting ready for main dining, like the adult pool is like dead. And so you just have the whole place to yourself practically.
And I've just gotten used to like show, then bar, then dinner, then back to bar. Yeah. So I've gotten used to that pattern. I'm okay with it.
Yes. And I've gotten used to mine, but I totally see why people want the other one, especially if excursions come into play where you don't want to rush back to the ship or, you don't want to miss your port time. But I'm always ready, except for Alaska. In Alaska, I was I'm eating late because there's things to do.
Long day
Europe
excursions and Europe too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Palo brunch or dinner?
Brunch.
Probably brunch. Yeah. I mean, both are fantastic, but the chicken parm,
The lasagna.
the pizzas, and
I'm not trying to be a contrarian. I'm a dinner person. Here's why, though. Brunch is like the fixed price, so many things to eat, and I can't eat a ton at once. And so I always feel really wasteful, and they pressure you into getting more and more. And I'm like, I just cannot do it. It's all delicious, so good. But dinner, I feel like I can really pick and choose what I want.
Oh, yeah. They're both great. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with either, I feel like.
Yeah.
So.
I would say you can do your dinner strategy at brunch. Like because we're not big meal eaters any longer either. And so a lot of times, like when we're like, this is all I want. Like I might want one thing off the seafood antipasti plate. Like, can you just bring me 3 or 4 of that? I don't want the rest of it. Right. No, I don't need the soup. Like we're just really assertive about it. And it's like, yeah.
I'm tired of being assertive. And that's the thing. I've done the brunch so many times and I'm like, please, I feel like you're selling me to eat more. And I just can't do it.
Yeah.
The worst we ever had it was we had brunch twice on a longer sailing. And at the second brunch, we sat down, we had the same server, he knew us. And we were looking at the menus, and he just came over and took the menus from us and was like, I've got you. And like walked away. And it was just like, a nonstop flow of food for the next.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I can't do
Too
this
much.
anymore.
Too much.
Yeah.
But I do think though sharing is a good, especially if you have if you can go with a larger group and you can share stuff and then you don't feel quite as overwhelmed because you can have a little bit of a bunch of different things, particularly like the appetizer type things, even if you're still going to have your own main. Yeah.
And I'm going to give you our biggest tip for people having Palo Brunch. Don't sleep on the off-menu grape and gorgonzola pizza. It is
And I don't even like gorgonzola, and I love this pizza.
Yeah. That sounds delicious. It is all really good. There's just a lot of it, and so it's difficult. But of course, booking dinner means that you're not doing the rotational dining, so it's a trade-off. Pros and cons as usual. Castaway Key or Lookout Key?
We're controversial on this one. We're
going to both say Lookout.
Yeah, we really liked Lookout Key. We've been there actually by happenstance 4 times. Or I've been there 4 times.
You've been there 4 times.
3.
I was 3. Yeah.
But I was on the preview to Lookout on the Magic, and then we did our podcast cruise on the Magic and another cruise on the Magic. So we had like 4 stops. I had 4 stops at Lookout, and we had a couple stops at Castaway. And I will tell you, after going to Lookout, and setting aside like all the hand wringing and haranguing around, like the pier and all that sort of stuff, like when we got off at Castaway, I was like, I feel like this place could use just a little fresh coat of paint or something. So we like the beaches at Lookout, I think are the star of the show. I liked that it's open water, so you don't have to deal with that oddity of like the water level being too low in some of the places on Castaway. I like that they really branched out on some of the food at Lookout. And I love that they brought in the elements of Bahamian culture. And getting to talk to some of the Bahamians involved in that effort, you can tell how proud they are of what they did and how emotional they get about being able to introduce their culture in this way to people who don't know as much about it. And so I really love that Disney did that and that you can get to experience that. So yeah, Lookouts are.
But we won't turn down a sailing to Castaway either.
Not.
So, and actually our recent sailings over Christmas, we did 2 cruises, as Brian mentioned, Treasure and then Fantasy with the day in between. Both of those went to Castaway. Neither of them went to Lookout. So it's not like we love Castaway. It's just a slight preference for Lookout.
I think I still have a slight preference for Castaway, but I do have a very specific scenario where Lookout shines. That is the family cabana side of Lookout Key.
Oh,
so
yeah.
nice.
So nice.
Yeah. We had a cabana on the family side once or twice when we went.
Twice we did. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this. The first time I went, because I was on the preview, like I was there to get content and I was like traipsing everywhere, walking, all this sort of stuff. And so I got back on the ship ready to be like, this is the worst idea that Disney ever had. And I had to like step back, take a breath, realize that my experience was a bit unique. And then I sort of sat there and I thought about it for a while. And I was like, the promise of this place is enormous. And so like right now, is it perfect? No. But what I like to remind people is Castaway probably wasn't perfect when it started either. And there's just they have a whole lot of space and a whole lot of opportunity and a whole lot of plans for expansion. And so like, this place, give it, another couple years, maybe 5 years out, and then sort of revisit this question. And I think Lookout could be just a really special place. Yeah.
It is gorgeous. There is no doubt about it. Yeah. So, and also like some stuff's just not available there yet that you might want. And so it'll get better, I think, as time goes on. But I can't imagine going without booking a family cabana, which is a very expensive habit.
It is.
But with a group, it becomes much more affordable for a person.
Yes.
Starboard or port side?
Whatever gets me on the ship.
But if you're booking way in advance.
We like to be on the starboard side, going to Castaway, because then when the ship backs in, you've got a view out to the island. Yeah.
That's just our first one we agree on. Yes, it doesn't maybe matter as much with the other ports, but at Castaway, starboard is the best. And I will tell you, this is a no, but I accidentally did it. You can also watch the fireworks on that side.
Yes.
And you're not supposed to do that, but I went out there without knowing it one time, and it was really amazing to do it from the veranda instead of the crowds up on the pool deck.
Yes.
Get off the ship at Nassau or stay on the ship?
Stay on the ship. I'm team stay on the ship, 100%.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with Sam here for just a second and say, like, I am currently team stay on the ship, but I also think since they've updated the port, I've gotten off and it has been a lot more manageable. We were team stay on the ship for a long time because like I got off once And it was a terrible experience. Like I was getting yelled at by a cab driver for simply saying like, I didn't want to taxi any place. And like, he was screaming at me and I was like, this is really bad. Like, and then I wanted to go mail a postcard to ourselves because we had a tradition of doing that for a long time. And I couldn't get anyone to tell me where the post office was. Like they were all like, just, oh, it's somewhere down there. And I'm like, okay. So like, I had a really bad experience that colored Nassau for me. I think the next time we go to Nassau, I would like to get off and try some of the excursions. I don't think Atlantis is going to be for me. We have done that excursion before. It's not my favorite, but I've heard good things about some of the beach excursions.
I'm going to let Brian go and I'm going to stay on the ship.
And that's fine. And that's fine. But like, I think Nassau's trying harder now to get the cruise passengers off. And I'd like to see if that's actually paying off for them or not. So yeah.
I think the environment at the port itself is one thing, but also there's so many ships. And so sometimes, listen, I'm not a prude, but sometimes the behavior on the other
oh yeah,
not my vibe.
Yeah.
And so it does feel a little safer to stay on the ship there. I just consider it a kind of a sea day sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah. And well, if you're on a 3 or 4 night sailing, which most of the sailings are, like, frankly, I'm not sure I want to give up my time on board to go to Nassau when I've paid a premium to be on the cruise. So I can totally respect the people who stay on the ship. And I am of you. I feel like it's time for me to like get off and give Nassau one more try. So yeah.
You're doing research.
Yes.
That's right. It's for science.
Yes.
It is. Express walk off or not?
Not usually. We're early morning people at home here in Seattle, but not on the East Coast. That's like way too early. And we usually take a flight home later in the evening because our options for direct flights from Orlando, which is we're typically sailing out of Port Canaveral, are really either a morning flight that we can't make because unless you are going to express walk off on race to MCO, it's just not.
Which we did once.
We did once when we were sick, but it's very risky. And so it's not something I would ever recommend. Or a flight that leaves at like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night. So if we're leaving at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, East Coast time, we have no rush to get off the ship. We let the porters take our bags off. We go to breakfast or at least get coffee and pastries. And then we get off the ship. We take our sweet time, do something for the day before we go to the airport.
I will tell you, I'm exclusively express walk off, but it's not necessarily about the flight, making a flight, but it is about the fact that I don't want to put my bags out the night before.
Oh. Yeah, we've never had an issue with that. We had an issue one time, but it was our own fault. We forgot to tag one of the bags. They took it off.
It just was there. It was just in a different gathering because it was with the bags that were untagged. Like it didn't have the Chip and Dale or whatever character we had.
This last time it was almost comical because I think we had like 7 pieces of luggage outside of our room. Yeah, it was way too much stuff. Yeah, we've never had an issue with that. I will say the one benefit of express walk-off these days is that the lines to the atriums on these ships to get off, if you don't do express walk-off, are just awful.
They wind and wind.
Yeah. So if you do express walk-off, at least, I feel like that crowd is a little bit more manageable to get off early. So if you don't want to wait in those lines, it's not terrible. Yeah.
I can confirm that they are, but we just have to get past those people, and it's so long. But I like getting off the ship and not having to worry about putting out the bag the night before. But again, pros and cons. Disney Band Plus or Key to the World card?
We're split family in this one.
We are.
So I'm a Disney Band Plus. I like having to not carry my Key to the World card. I don't need a lanyard. I just have an extra thing around my wrist. And it helps me when I'm going to get coffee in the morning. I'm the one who gets up in the morning, goes and gets us coffee and brings it back to the room. And I'm talking coffee from Cove Cafe. I'm not talking about that swill that they call coffee on the pool deck. No, I don't drink that. We live in Seattle. We're serious about our coffee here. So, but I like having the Magic Band or Disney Band because I have more, free hands, right? Like it's just one less thing I have to take out of my pocket or pull from my neck. Yeah. I'm all the way Disney Band. I use it in the parks. I use it on the cruise. I have gone all in on that. Brian is a Key to the World person.
Well, here's my thing. I am a Key to the World person because I find the bands to be too chunky. And then I don't like that they light up and buzz on my wrist because I've been trained to if my wrist is buzzing, I've got a notification I need to deal with. And I'm like, there's nothing here that I really need to deal with. I will say that my dream state is what they do at Disney World, where I put a pass into my Apple Watch and then I can just tap it at the scanners and I don't have to think about it. But, just a step below that is what Virgin Voyages does. They give you these little they're like nautical rope. They have a little tiny puck on them and like an anchor, and it's like a bracelet that you wear, but it's not thick. It doesn't make your wrists sweat.
It's unobtrusive.
Use it everywhere around the ship and the other thing that I don't like about the Disney Band Plus is if you're going to use it in a restaurant or a bar or something, almost half the time they're making you take it off and give it to them to then go scan. On Virgin, they just come over with a machine and tap it to your wrist and then they go away. Right. And so I love that it's on and I don't ever have to take it off and deal with it. So yeah.
Yeah, they do. It's not as convenient on the ship as it is on the parks.
Yeah.
Because I have a Magic Band Plus that I use on the parks and Vero Beach and all the places, I bring it on the ship. But I will tell you, Brian, I don't charge mine, so it doesn't vibrate or light up.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah. I don't need all that, and I don't want to bring a charger, or I don't want to worry about charging one more thing. So I just let it be dead looking and just scan into my room with it.
It's funny. It's funny because we were on, it was the Wish, I think they did a couple of tests on the Wish so we were in the test group. And so they gave us the bands and we tried them out and then we did feedback sessions and all this sort of stuff. And the not charging a thing was great because on that cruise, they had not yet figured out how to connect it up to the Disney experience. The cruise line app did not have the controls for the band. So everyone was complaining when they're charging in our room, it's like this bright flashing light in the darkness and it's keeping us all awake. But the one piece of feedback I gave them was it's just too big. It's just too chunky. Can you just slim this thing down? And then the thing that they haven't done that I'm really surprised about is enough new styles of it for the cruise line. Where's the concierge only band that you can buy if you sail in concierge?
Right. Where's the silver
band
Castaway?
For each ship? The Castaway Club status, all of that sort of stuff. It's been a really light offering. It makes me feel like they've got 1 foot in and 1 foot out on the technology. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair. There are so many different options in the parks, and it would be nice on the cruises as well. Yeah. I hear you on the chunkiness of it. I'm not a watch wearer in any kind of way. Yeah. And so when I do wear one, it's like a new feeling. I didn't mind the old Magic Bands, which were slimmer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this one feels more like a watch. And if you're already wearing a watch, that's a lot going on.
Yeah, you have one on each. I wear a watch on my left hand, so I wear my Magic Band on my right hand. And it's like an extra thing. And if I want to wear bracelets, which I'll usually wear on my right hand, then it's like I have a ton of stuff on my right hand, right? So it is a lot, but I still find it more convenient than the card because I tend to not forget it. I might not have pockets, right? It's just, again, it leaves me more hands-free. So I like it.
Yeah, we have different opinions, all valid. I appreciate you taking the time to share. We've been able to talk through a lot of things. Can you share with everyone where to find you?
Yeah.
Sure. The easiest way to find us is head to DCLDuo.com. It's got links to everything from our podcast, our YouTube channel, our Substack newsletter. We've got an Etsy store where we sell some designed, non-branded, but designed stuff that we've made. So everything is there. But if you are listening to this show and you're like, I want to head over and subscribe now, we are on all the podcast channels at DCL Duo, the DCL Duo with a space in between. We're on social media at DCL_Duo for the most part, Instagram, Threads. I think on Facebook we're at DCL Run Together Duo, but yeah,
and on Blue Sky. You're on
Blue Sky.
Yeah.
On Blue Sky. Yes. We're trying to embrace the other social media networks and are really enjoying the vibe on Blue Sky and Threads right now.
That's where we connected.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And so so the website, all the podcasting places that you want to listen to, and we're on YouTube at DCL Duo as well. So yeah,
and we will link to all of that in the show notes. So if you want to click through, it will be easy to find.
And Shannon, I just want to say thank you again for having us on. And we love that we have differences of opinion. So if you're looking for a show where you can hear this kind of discussion week to week about Disney Cruise Line, or you're planning your cruise, whatever, this is what we do. We have people on. They all have different opinions about everything, and we love it. We embrace it. So yeah.
I'm glad. That's how I feel too. That's why I do trip reports. I love hearing other points of view and why things work for people or don't.
Yeah, and we learn things from other cruisers all the time, because we can't ourselves do every single experience on Disney Cruise Line. We try to do as much as possible ourselves, but it's just impossible to do everything. And so it's really fun when we get to hear new stuff and learn new stuff from other people.
Yeah. Well, it sounds good, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you're interested in cruising, a reminder that we do partner with Small World Vacations, and I will link to the quote request form for them in the show notes. They provide onboard credits to people that book through them, and the amount is determined by the amount of the cruise. But that's who our group cruises are always booked through, and they have come in so handy when we've gotten into some difficult situations. I also have an after chat with Sam and Brian up on Patreon where I took questions from patrons and asked them those. But I also asked them some of the heavier questions related to cruising, such as environmental impact and issues with staffing and sort of the ethics around that. And we had a good conversation about those heavier topics, but also some of the fun ones that were submitted by patrons. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep To Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, WDWPrepSchool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 450. Until next time, I will see you on the site.
Attention sports enthusiasts, keep the adrenaline pumping and elevate your game day with Chumba Casino. It's completely free to play. No purchase necessary. Whether you're cheering from the stands, on the move, or relaxing at home, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of social casino directly to your fingertips. Experience the ultimate social casino adventure with reels of casino-style games, offering hundreds of exciting options to choose from and fresh new releases every week. There's always something new and thrilling to explore. From action-packed social slots and classic blackjack to engaging bingo and solitaire, the fun never stops. Plus, enjoy generous daily login bonuses and a fantastic free welcome bonus to kickstart your social gaming journey. Dive into the excitement. Discover a world where you can play for your chance to redeem some serious prizes and have a blast along the way. Don't miss out. What are you waiting for? Join now and immerse yourself in nonstop fun and adventure with Chumba Casino. Get in on the action today at ChumbaCasino.com and make every day a Chumba day. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. DCL